BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Tributes have been paid to the American soul and pop superstar Tina Turner, who has died aged 83. Known as the Queen of Rock and Roll, she rose to fame in the 1960s. The White House described her as a music icon. Here's our arts editor, Katie Razzle.
Gospel, soul, R&B, rock and roll and pop. Tina Turner had so many hit records across eras and genres and seemed to feel the music like a spirit inside her when she danced. She was also a role model for survivors of domestic abuse after opening up about the violence she suffered at the hands of her first husband. Tina Turner claimed she taught Mick Jagger to dance. The lead singer of the Rolling Stones said he was so saddened by the death of a woman he called his wonderful friend. Gloria Gaynor said Tina Turner paved the way for so many women in rock music, black and white. We have seen the passing of a legend, a woman whose voice has been the soundtrack to our lives for so long.
The Republican governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, has declared he's seeking the Republican nomination for next year's U.S. presidential elections. Making the announcement in a video, Mr. DeSantis said, "We need the courage to lead and the strength to win."
Our border is a disaster. Crime infests our cities. The federal government makes it harder for families to make ends meet, and the president flounders. But decline is a choice. Success is attainable, and freedom is worth fighting for.
The video was released just ahead of an audio interview on Twitter with its owner, Elon Musk, which initially failed to launch, though Mr. DeSantis was eventually able to join. Leaders of the Roman Catholic Church in Bolivia have announced steps to investigate hundreds of reports of sexual abuse of children in church-run schools that have shocked the country in recent weeks. The bishop said they were setting up 2 commissions to look into the allegations of abuse. The head of a Russian paramilitary group that's opposed to President Putin has said it carried out a recent cross-border raid from Ukraine in coordination with the Ukrainian military. Here's Paul Moss.
The words of Denis Kapustin were unambiguous. He claims to be a member of the Russian Volunteer Corps, which wants to overthrow the regime of Vladimir Putin. And he said they always consult with the Ukrainian armed forces about their operations. This contradicts the line out of Kiev, the Ukrainian government insisting it had nothing to do with the paramilitary's incursion. Meanwhile, the White House says it's looking into reports that US military vehicles were used, vehicles which it presumably gave to Ukraine, and which Ukraine had promised would not be used to attack Russian territory.
World News from the BBC. Officials in Ecuador have announced that early elections will be held on the 20th of August, following President Guillermo Lasso's decision last week to dissolve the country's National Assembly. President Lasso said the elections for both the presidency and the legislature would be an opportunity to unite the country. He dissolved the National Assembly last Wednesday, a day after it opened an impeachment trial against him. 6 civilians in Pakistan have been sent for trial in a military court for their alleged involvement in recent violent protests in Pakistan. Many supporters of Imran Khan took to the streets after he was arrested 2 weeks ago. Here's Caroline Davies.
The military in Pakistan have made it increasingly clear that they intend to harshly punish those involved in the protests that followed Imran Khan's arrest earlier this month. The BBC has seen a court order from the anti-terror court handing a civilian over to the Pakistan Army for trial. He's one of 6. The UN human rights chief called the use of military courts to try civilians disturbing.
The United States says it will impose visa restrictions on Bangladeshi citizens who it believes to be complicit in undermining elections in their home country. The US Secretary of State said free and fair polls were the responsibility of all stakeholders, including the government. Dhaka says it's committed to holding a free and fair vote. Bangladesh, ruled by the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina since 2009, is scheduled to hold elections in January. A Tunisian court has ordered the release after more than 3 months' detention of the head of the country's most popular radio station. Noureddin Boutar, director of Mosaic FM, is among more than 20 prominent opposition figures detained since early this year in what Amnesty International has called a politically motivated witch hunt. BBC News.